What we need to develop, Laney said, is minds, not hands. Race leaders, not followers. Laney was especially interested in training young black women to be teachers.
The educated Negro woman is needed in the schoolroom, not only in the kindergarten and primary school, but in the high school and the college. She may give advice and knowledge that will change a whole community and start its people on the upward way.
African American women were playing a much more critical role than what was common in American education generally. They were critical as educational leaders, but even within the trenches in local communities, in terms of fundraising and teaching and support groups, that you cannot really understand the development of African American education without really appreciating the leadership of African American women.
Teaching was a very important profession for black women in this period of time. It was not just a profession, but it was a mission to uplift African Americans, to teach people to read, to also teach them the ways of this world as free people.
But black teachers had to show real ingenuity. Black schools were often barren affairs with few books, maps, pencils, or pens.
We had students draw the national flag on the blackboard. These flags were assigned a place of honor on the board and became a permanent picture in the room for years. Pupils were careful not to erase the flag when they erased the blackboard.
The positive image of Laney and others was hopeful, but the reality for most blacks was hard, back-breaking work and servitude.
I've been a factory hand, janitor, porter, and butler, and wiping engines on the railroad. I worked as a helper for a carpenter and laying bricks for masons. I've been a driver of teams, a pick and shovel man, and drove steel for a section boss. I was a hand on the Mississippi and working in a steel foundry, and seemed like I did 100 more jobs.
My grandma would work in the tub washing the clothes of the prominent white people of our city. And for all of that washing, for the whole white family, washing and then ironing, she got $1.50 for the whole family laundry at the end of it. So there were several families that she had, but it was just $1.50 for all of that work.
White folks didn't have no feeling for you. They pretended they did. They had nannies to give their child comfort. That was my name, Nanny. They would teach their children they were better than you. You was giving them all that love, and you'd hear them say, "You're not supposed to love Nanny. Nanny's a nigger." And they would say it so nasty till it would cut your heart out almost, and you couldn't say a mumbling word. A woman knows how to shift a smile when the burden is so heavy. Know how to smile when she want to cry. Smile when sorrow done touch her so deeply. So that's why I feel black women in the field had to pray and had to moan and had to cry. Them prayers went a long way and protected a lot of people. And God wiped away those tears. And the next morning, we had the strength to go on. Dorothy Bolden.
But despite all the obstacles, blacks began to rise. More blacks were being educated. There was now a growing black middle class. And the children of the former slaves were not too quick to bow down to the white man as their parents had.
Whites perceived a new generation of black Southerners, the sons and the daughters and the grandsons and granddaughters of the former slaves, who had not been disciplined by slavery, who had never known slavery, who were perceived as much more restless and obviously much more threatening because, unlike some of their parents and grandparents, they seemed less afraid of whites.
We are not the Negro from whom the chains of slavery fell a quarter of a century ago. Most assuredly not. We are now qualified as being the equal of whites and should be treated as such.
Every time we see a Negro physician, it does us good. When we see a Negro pharmacist, it goes still better. When we see the lawyers, professors, bank presidents, inventors, machinists, mechanics, We grin as much as our mouth will allow and shout, "The Negro is coming." Editor, Richmond Planet.
Many whites feared since the end of slavery that blacks would come to feel they were equal to whites. Now that fear seemed realized.
The colored race is getting more unreliable. Freedom has ruined them in every way. Only the old-timey darkies can be trusted. The young ones are sullen and grow more insolent every day.
They don't sing as they used to. You should have known the old days of the plantation. Every year it seems they're losing more and more of their own confessed good humor. I sometimes feel I don't know 'em anymore. They've grown so glum and serious, or I'm free to say I'm scared of 'em.
Nowhere was this fear more pronounced than in Memphis, Tennessee, where in the 1880s 40% of the population was black. Faced with this growing black presence, whites demanded that the informal practices which had segregated the races since 1865 become legalized and strictly enforced.
The laws were intended to accomplish what it was clear the conventions were not going to accomplish, which was, again, to make African Americans act inferior. Again, if white people couldn't make African Americans be inferior, they couldn't prevent some of them from attaining a kind of middle-class status despite the violence and despite the discrimination, then they could make them act inferior.